Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. It is your girl from the 314 coming at you from the 770, and I have another thrilling Cheetah Diva adventure. As you can see, my makeup is already done. This is a look I wore to work this morning. It is now what, 12 hours later, so with except a few touch-ups, it's holding up pretty good. I kind of want to talk about something that I tend to champion, and I kind of want to deal with it in this particular medium. Now, I had done a video about it a couple of years ago. It is posted here on my YouTube channel, but it's kind of private. I had it public for a while, but then I privatized it when I started my beauty channel. The only people that have access to it are people that have the link. So it was a weird video. I went on and on for about 17-18 minutes. It was disjointed, it was out of place, but it was just me talking. And at that time, I was not in full understanding of what my depression was or why I was so depressed. With some truths about me, and I'm going to be very open and I'm going to be very honest about it. A couple of years ago, when I went to St. Louis and sat down with my family, the subject of molestation came up. One of my cousins revealed that my uncle had molested his girlfriend's daughter. And I looked over at my mother, and she's listening to him, but she's not registering what he said. It slowly dawned on her what he had just said about her brother. So she just went, stop, hold up, rewind, what the hell you just say? And he repeated it. And this caused this lively discussion. My mother didn't disbelieve it, but she was just at a state where she couldn't believe it. Now, my uncle is the type of person, he's kind of sociopathic. He has no issues with raising his hand to a woman's face. Although he's never done that to me. I believe he's hit my sister. I can't remember the date or the circumstances, but yeah, I remember that happening. As the conversation kind of died down a little bit, I'm watching my mother absorb this information. And as the room got quiet, I just decided to blurt it out. I said, Mom, he tried to molest me when I was 17. And she just stared at me. At that time, my brother, sister, and I were staying with my grandmother, and my mom was in Colorado. I didn't understand my uncle's mentality at that point. He would talk to me, but he would talk to me differently than he would talk to other people. It was almost like he was grooming me. The way he talked to me was the way a guy talked to a girl he was interested in. Although at that time, this happened around when I was 15 or so, I didn't really correlate what was really going on. So it reached a peak when I was 17. I was asleep in my bedroom, and I woke up to someone sitting down on the bed. And he turned the light, and I got up, and he turned the light on, and he just started talking real soft. And I'm looking at him like he's crazy. Like, what the hell are you doing here? And then he said, come downstairs with me. So I went downstairs, we went into the kitchen, and he said something, I'm hazy on what he said, and he said, give me a hug. I went to him to hug my uncle, and instead of putting his arms around my shoulders or around my waist, he grabbed my butt. And I remember fighting out of his arms. And then he reached out and touched my breast like this, and I pushed his hand away. And then I went upstairs, and I got in the bed, and I was just trembling with not really understanding what was really going on. Now see, back in that day, we were not these girls who had knowledge that the young ladies have today. I'm not calling anybody names, I want you to understand that. But in that day, a girl's reputation meant something to her. And that wasn't something that we just did. So at that age, I had not had a boyfriend. I had never had sex. I had no idea what's actually going on right now. But I'm lying in bed and I hear him come up the steps. Now, my uncle was very stealth at that time. He could run up 2 flights of steps at a time. I'm sorry, no, he could run up 3 steps at a time. And I hear him at the door again. Now, back then, my room had a lock on it, but the way the door frame was, if you put a butter knife in it, you could slowly pop the little tab open and open the door. So as I hear him jiggling at it, I got up and slammed the door closed. And then he went back downstairs. Here's the worst thing about that. The next day, I told my grandmother what had happened. Her response to me was, "Don't say anything." That shocked me more than what had happened. But I did as she asked. And at that point, I think that's when the depression started. I became very angry. I became very moody. I started fighting a lot. And we still live there. And I had that type of bed that was made out of wood, it was real wood. It had these 2 heavy drawers in them. So this was a really big, heavy bed. It was like a block of wood. From that night on, I would push the bed against the door. And I could hear him come up the steps. And he would put the butter knife in the little door thing. And he would try to push the door, but the bed was so strong, he couldn't get it open. This went on for a week or so, where he was trying to get into my room, and I had the bed against the door. Finally, I went to my grandmother. I said, "Look, you need to talk to your pervert son, or I'm going to go to school and talk to the counselor." So at that stage, she had asked him to leave, so he left the house. And I still slept with the door jammed up like that. Without realizing it, I believe that's when the depression started. Here I am, I'm this young girl, I'm living with my grandmother, and I'm not being protected. And I have this uncle who is looking at me in a way he shouldn't be looking at me. Number of Black women who suffer from depression, I have not read it ever being calculated. To my knowledge, it's never been calculated before. That's because many Black women, 1, they don't know they suffer from depression, or 2, there's the denial and dismissive attitudes of people around us. We are viewed as the strong Black woman, or we're viewed as the Jezebel type, or we're viewed as this stoic nurturer. So it's easy for people to be dismissive of us and say that whatever's wrong with us, whatever attitude we're having, it's just an attitude. You have an attitude. You're angry. You're the angry Black woman. But I've learned that a lot of that anger stems from somewhere. It's not something that we deal with, or we deal with as a people in my culture and my society, and I think we should. A lot of Black women don't really know that they're depressed. They just know that they feel something and nobody's going to listen to us. No one sits down and asks us, "Are you okay? What's wrong? I'm here if you need me." And then you talk, you let it out, and you begin to feel better. Nope, we get ignored. Just stop being so pissed off. Stop being so angry. Why are you so evil? It's a lot to have to deal with. So from the time I was 17 until I was in my late 40s, I was closed off from people. I mentally shut down in making friendships and making relationships, and it just, it was not something that I wanted to be bothered with. But I didn't know why I felt that way. Up until that point, I had been a really happy person, an affable person. I enjoyed life. I enjoyed dancing. I couldn't sing to save my life, but I enjoyed singing. And I enjoyed reading, and I enjoyed sports. And just like that, without me realizing, without me understanding, my life had completely changed. One of the major reasons why Black women go through depression is because of sexual abuse. Again, I don't know the numbers because no one has actually calculated it, but the majority of Black women who suffer from depression are victims of sexual abuse or sexual assault, more often than not by someone in their family. So this young woman that was in our therapy, my group therapy session, and she talked about her mom being in the military, and her mom had been deployed, and I think this was the Gulf War, and she went to stay with her aunt and her uncle and their two sons. So these are her relatives. This is her auntie, this is her uncle-in-law, and these are her blood cousins. She said the first night she was there, her uncle-in-law came into the bedroom that night and raped her. She remembers disassociating herself. She was crying at first, but no one came into the room. No one, she was screaming and no one came to her. So she kind of hid in her mind and completely disassociated from it. Now, after he finished, his two sons went in and they spent the entire night taking turns raping her. She was pretty much left to deal with it by herself because her aunt took the attitude that, she was fast and she was lying and, things that they describe with Black women. And that's another thing, the Jezebel complex. We are looked at as sexualized beings. We're not looked at as women or human beings. When you think about Black women, you think about sex. She is a Jezebel, she's a whore, and all she does is she's nothing but a sex machine. A lot of this mentality comes from the slave days when the mistress of the house would get angry with the Black woman who was being raped by her husband down in the slave quarters. So instead of being angry with him, she became angry with the woman. Black women were described as being in heat, like dogs. So they had to be taken care of in that manner. This is one of the reasons why we have the different shades of beautiful Black people, because of the generational rape that happened to Black women, a lot of which even occurred after slavery. I remember my grandmother talking about a friend of hers who did not like white people because she had been violently raped by a white man. And she thought that was the most disgusting thing and the most horrible thing that could happen to a person. And I looked at that woman like she was crazy. I said, so what my uncle did was my fault? You choose not to acknowledge that, but you want to talk about somebody else? Anyway, the rape of this girl went on for about 2 years. 2 years she endured that hell. I knew what was happening, didn't stop it. Didn't say anything. All she did was call the girl names. She just called her whore and slut and, hoe and bitch. Instead of dealing with her husband and dealing with her sons, she chose to stigmatize this girl for something she had no control over. That caused her to go into a depression, to where after her mom returned from the Gulf War, she went into a pattern of where she just started sleeping with anybody. She started doing drugs. It was something to numb the pain that she felt where she didn't get the support and get the help that she needed. So finally she realized what was going on, that she was depressed, and went in for therapy, and that's how we kind of met and heard her story. So the stigma of what happened to her was just absolutely horrible. It took her years to finally admit to her parents what had happened to her. And when her mother confronted her sister at first denied it. But then the youngest son, who had, got saved and, is now worshiping crackhead Jesus, finally admitted what had happened. So now the son is admitting it, the husband is denying it, the oldest son is denying it, but then the younger son says, yeah, this happened. We all raped her. We all did. So since they couldn't find any commonality again, they became a fractured family, and that I know of, they've never spoken to that side of the family again. Who was then ancestral rape is something that when you experience something like that, it kills a little piece of you. This is your family. This is somebody you're supposed to trust. This is somebody who's supposed to take care of you, who's supposed to love you, protect you, and then they do something like this to you. Now, my mom wanted to go out and find my uncle because she wanted to take her baseball bat and beat the shit out of him. I said no, because I got more therapy and more release by just saying it out loud, that this had happened to me, that this was my uncle, and he sexually assaulted me. Grabbing my butt, touching my breast was sexual assault when I get through with it. So that's the part I didn't tell her, that he had actually grabbed me. Because I think if I did, she would have gone out to find him. There are other reasons why Black women are depressed. A lot of that is socioeconomic. A lot of that is societal. When people look at Black women, again, they look at Black women as though we're third-class citizens. Not even that. Dogs get treated better than us. And a lot of that is we know that white men are not going to support us like that. And when I say that, I'm talking in general. I'm not talking every white man. I'm not talking every Black man. I'm not talking every white woman. This is not about all of those. This is about Black women. So I want you to understand that. But a lot of that is, for the most part, our Black men will not stand and defend us. They'll just find a reason to blame us, especially if it's a white guy or a white woman, and then they'll just take the attitude, well, that hoe shouldn't have said nothing. That hoe shouldn't have bucked up in his face. That bitch shouldn't have did this. That bitch shouldn't have did that. And you know what? If you want to doubt that that's true, go back and look at that McDonald's video where that young woman got manhandled. So she fought back, and not one person helped her for a few minutes until one of the workers came over, and instead of grabbing the man, he grabbed her. That's what it's like for Black women. So when we hear strong Black woman, it's because we have to be. We're in situations where we are the last people to be helped. And it shouldn't be that way. So yes, it fuels the depression because the anger is being fueled, because the anxiety is being fueled, and it has to manifest itself somehow. Or you could lock yourself up. The way I describe my depression is I'm in deep, dark water. I am not drowning at this point, but I'm sinking down into this hole that I can't get out of. I'm trying to swim through it. I'm trying to reach up. And the more I struggle, the worse it gets, and I'm starting to get water in my lungs. I have to find a bright spot above all of this to reach for in order to get me out of that. Now, when the depression was at its worst, one of the things that I listened to was heavy metal music. Those singers are the most depressed people I've ever seen in my life because they channel that depression into their music. So I can totally relate to it. Slipknot is one of my favorite groups. I will rock Slipknot constantly when I'm going through a depressive episode. The workplace is really no better. We're among the lowest paid. We don't get the promotions. If you get into a confrontation with a white coworker, they're going to believe the white coworker, even though they know that person's lying, even though you can back that up with witnesses, and they're going to come to you and will try not to do this. But you have to be understanding. It was having an incident in my workplace in which I reported racist comments being said. And the retaliation and the backlash that came behind that began to drive the depression again. But again, at this time, I didn't know what that was. I was just hearing angry black woman. She got an attitude. And all of this was happening to me, the harassment, the bullying, that still goes on today. I had been taken out of the building into hospitals because I was having heart palpitations. I was so depressed. And I didn't know that's what I was until I visited my primary. And I described everything to her. And she said, oh, okay, you're clinically depressed. I looked at her like she was crazy. No, I'm not. Yeah, you kind of are. I'm going to suggest a therapist. And at the time, I was dating a guy. And because I started a writing career and I didn't want that correlating with that, he paid for my therapy. And it was then when I realized the depths of my depression and what was driving it and how I had not resolved it or even really acknowledged it. So once that happened, my self-healing began. Now, I still do have issues where I work, and I believe that the situation fueled the congestive heart failure. One day I had palpitations, took me to the emergency room. The next episode was I was diagnosed with tachycardia and atrial fibrillation. So now we are at congestive heart failure. So it's something that I deal with. So I take a more relaxed approach to my life. Even though all of this is happening around me, I have to regain my focus and I have to disassociate myself, but not really. I know that sounds weird, but I have to do a woosah thing, because if I don't, then I'm going to get sucked back into that deep, dark water. So work in progress. People love to say that. I'm not a work in progress. I am actually looking to improve, and I'm working at it. When I feel a depressive episode come on, I find a way to deal with it. Instead of sitting there and internalizing it, I approach the person. I say, well, let's talk for a minute. This is how I feel right now. And I've been met with positivity, and it's been really good. It's been a really great eye-opener for me. My therapist, Karen, literally saved my life. Her attitude about it was, we need to push forward and push through the barriers that I've put around myself, because as horrible as things are in the workplace, I have to find a way to deal with it so that it doesn't impede on me as a person, and it doesn't take me back down to that dark water. I don't like being there. I don't like being that person. So I work with it, I deal with it. And you know what is funny about it? You would think that me having congestive heart failure would be a sign for them to say, okay, we can let her off because she's dealing with it now. Nope, they hit the gas and sped up. And if they want to wallow in that kind of hate and ugliness, then more power to you. I am looking at the more positive aspects of my life, and writing, starting this YouTube channel is part of a deeper therapy for me. I don't have that many subscribers, but I'm okay with that. It's the fact that I'm here and I'm doing what I love, and I'm happy about that, you know? So right now, my life is going pretty good. I have a big cardiologist, Dr. Don Rowe. He is one of the best cardiologists in the state. He's very attentive to his patients. So we get top-notch healthcare from him. So I think he's absolutely awesome. I just want to shout out to you, Dr. Rowe. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I just want to shout out to you. In this video, I'm going to put some phone numbers and some links for resources that we can reach out to. I'm also going to put those links in my comments section, so make sure you look at that and gather that information. At the end of all things, even with everything that's going on around me, I live the best life ever. I don't let things like that turn me around anymore. I don't let anything like that affect my life anymore. I am not insecure. I love myself. If I could marry me, I would actually do that. I have to be happy with you. Depression is not about not being able to get a pair of shoes or get this guy to go out with you or something superficial like that. Depression is a chemical imbalance, and what it does, it robs the sufferer of rational thought. It tricks you into thinking that there's no hope. Life's not worth living. The pain will go away if you kill yourself. I have a friend that did kill herself. Her name is Shannon Blackman. Was going through a lot of my depression, but I didn't really say anything up front because you know there's a stigma to it. You don't want anybody to know, and I wasn't there for her, and I was very upset with myself when I feel like I didn't speak out, and I should have. Instead of internalizing what was going on with me, I needed to be speaking out. So from that point, I became an advocate of mental health. I speak on it regularly. I blog about it. When there's a hashtag on Twitter in regards to mental health, I'm an active participant. I will never be silent again about depression I go through. It literally saved my life. Reaching out literally saved my life. So, and I'm glad to be here. I don't know how long I have left in this world because there's no cure for congestive heart failure. But I manage my symptoms every day. I exercise when I can. If I'm not having any sore ankles or sore knees, I don't know, so there's something going on with my left knee. I gotta go and see my primary about. Lifestyle changes, and I am being the best person that I can be right now. Just reach out, If you see a young lady who is angry, has attitude, or she's in this silent pocket, just go up to her and say, "Are you okay? Do you need to talk? Can I help you?" It's those little things that will bring a person up from the deep water, out of the shell a little. And if they see that you're somebody who's legitimately trying to help them, then they could be a little more open and try to work through what's going on. Because a lot of times, Black women aren't aware that they're depressed. They just think that, they're angry because of the way people are looking at them, or they're angry because of something that happened to them that they're not really remembering or they're correlating. Yes, they'll deal with something and they'll work on it, not the depression. Make sure you don't tell a woman to pray it away. Prayer does not help depression. Again, depression is a chemical imbalance. You can't fix it with prayer. You can't fix it with cigarettes. You can't. Someone tell me, go take a walk. What, am I gonna walk out in traffic? Why would you do that? So, but then that's that person not understanding what depression really is, and I had to sit down and explain it to her. So hopefully she got a better understanding of what we as depressed people really go through, and she can be a little more sensitive about it. As a group, we will get through this. We will get there. And we have nowhere to go but up. And that's a good thing. That's always a good thing. So if you see the person in your life being really angry, don't get angry back. Just find out what's going on, because there's something. Thank you for watching this really long and really non-beauty video. If one person gets something out of that, then I am truly, truly happy. I did my job. Now, it's not to say that I won't talk about depression again. And I would like to think that I can discuss it again with you and be a little more informed, do more research. I mean, I did some research, but I wasn't finding what I was looking for. And we'll get through this. If you like the content that you see, click the subscribe button and then the bell for notification. And then click like and tell me what you think about this video down below. Until next time, until next video, this is your Cheetah Diva signing out. I will see you when I see you. Thank you and goodbye.